Good morning. I was going to say welcome to the PRS Home Club for men, but there are more women here this year than there ever have been. I think the first one I did of these were like more women in this space than I've seen at the PRS Experience in the last 3 years combined. So we're making great strides here. 45 minutes is not very long, so I'm going to kind of move hopefully fast. And hard to believe, I know, but the last one they wanted to know about my tone first, gear of course. So I'll run you through real quick what I'm playing through and my sort of philosophy about getting sounds and my approach. I'm playing through one of the PRS Super Dallas amplifiers, which I really love. I love all the new amps quite a bit, especially the Super Dallas and the Signature and the Anniversary. I'm using all those to record with, to play live, and couldn't be more pleased, really. I'm really not even using my vintage amps anymore, and frankly, when the PRS amps first came out, I think they jumped the gun a little bit, and really, they're good amps, but they're not in the league of these. This is just my opinion. I could get in trouble for saying that. I don't know. But anyway, it helps to start with a nice guitar and a good amp. So I'll give you an idea of what it sounds like. That's with my guitar turned all the way up. So what I go for is, I go for a tone where when you have the guitar turned all the way up and you hit the strings pretty hard, you get a nice crunchy tone. Okay, there's that tone. Now, if I take it and turn it down about a third, cleans up beautifully. Now, on this guitar, which happens to have a really nice musical coil tap, I can pull that coil tap up, then I'll turn the guitar all the way up. It gets even cleaner. That's with the guitar all the way up. On the neck pickup, it's really cool. Look at a Strat thing, it's right there. You know, if I want to get a sparkly, jangly thing, I can even reach back and put the bright switch on. I haven't touched, all I did was I put the bright switch on there. And remember the first tone I had, which, so that's all the same guitar with just manipulating the volume control and maybe going to the single pull setting occasionally. So there's my clean tone and my sort of crunch tone. And from there, if I'm taking a solo, I usually have the guitar turned all the way up. And then I have a clean boost pedal, which I'm using an Exotic Effects EP booster, which I've really fallen in love with. Turn it on. And there's the bulk of my solo tones right there. Just that little clean boost pedal. If I want to go into the realm of higher gain, I turn on this pedal, which I'm using now. It could be anything. It could be, you know, a Centaur or a tube string or whatever. This is a full-tone plimsoll. It's a new pedal. I could turn it. Now there's tons more gain to dial in with that. So that's kind of my approach to having a 4-channel amplifier with a single channel amp. And I've always found channel switching amps to be a compromise. And so it's really important for me to start with the foundation of a great guitar and a great amp. And then it's easy to go wherever I want to go from there. It kind of simplifies things. For me at least, unless you already have a Wagner Ecstasy which has 3 channels, and then you've got a whole lot more to deal with. But that's kind of where I'm coming from tone-wise. It's an organic approach. I think of it as an organic approach. I can cover any bass with this setup. You know, I can go into any session with this amp, this guitar, and do anything from really kind of heavy rock stuff to country things. I can do the coil tap if I'm doing on a country session. They want a telly thing. I'll put the bridge pickup on, maybe a little slap back. So, you know, I can take one guitar and do almost everything. Any questions about that? Man, I must have explained it well. Is this kind of harkening back to my grade school days? I have a little handout here. A big part of what I do, and I'm going to kind of move fast, so ask me if you have any questions, because 45 minutes is not long. A big part of what I do rhythm-wise is I play chords that don't have thirds in them. Does everybody know what I mean by not having a third in the chord? So I don't play this chord very often. The guitar's not in tune, but those chords exaggerate the fact that the guitar's not in tune. Seriously. Especially if you're using, like, getting some harmonic complexity, which all these amps have. So this chord, I mean, when I first learned to play, that was I knew that A, I knew this A, or I knew this E. So those are all well and good, and they have their place, and, you know, by all means don't throw them out of your vocabulary, but when you talk about chords with no thirds, you can use them over in a major chord or a minor chord, because you're not defining whether it is major or minor. So it's really a beefier thing. And I kind of developed these chords working with Joe Ely when I was the only guitar player and there was no keyboard player. I needed to be able to fill out the sound. And they're really effective in a trio. They're effective in any situation. But start on page 2, of course they started backwards. On the E chords, they stapled them together wrong. That's just looking down the fingerboard. I think most people know how that's laid out, what I've done here. You know, the line to the left would be the 6th string, and then I tell you which finger fingers that note on each string. So the first chord is an E chord. And the thing to really pay attention to as well is the fingerings, because it has a whole lot to do with the sound of the chord and where you can go from after you've played that chord. And like on this chord, I'm borrowing the B and the E with my first finger, and then playing the B here with my 4th finger. And that allows me to get the 2 top strings open. If you go to the right of that, the same chord up at the 7th fret. A lot of people would play that chord like this. You see my hands where I'm borrowing it with my 3rd finger? But the important thing is I'm playing it like this. Each note with an individual finger. again, that helps me get these notes open, but it also helps me to do things like this. So all I'm doing there is moving this third finger, letting it up and letting that first finger bar. So this ought to be barring the A. And then a combination of using my right hand. If you look below that chord, I have a B chord written down, which is the same chord here, played at the 2nd fret. Again, by using that fingering, instead of going like this, and then God forbid, add that note, it sounds not totally in tune, I'm able to get the open B string. And I can keep that top B in there and then move my way through some other chords. I'll turn that around, starting with the first chord, the E. I think I've heard that somewhere before. I think that, you know, that's Townsend was an influence on me rhythm-wise, and it's that whole trio, big, beefy attitude, you know, without a lot of thirds, and so that's where that's coming from. Now, if you look at the bottom of the first chord, it says E add 9. It's an extension of the very first chord I showed you. The fingering changes up to where the third finger plays the B, and then the fourth finger plays the E here. And if you want to add in the top F sharp, you'd call it an E add 9. So, obviously, this form is movable up and down the fingerboard to any other chord. You just would not want to play the low E if you're playing, like for instance, an F. But generally, you're not going to get double scale with that chord. Just like I showed you before. Same thing down here. Again, it's movable up and down the fingerboard. The root of the chord is circled on these diagrams. So G would be... See how much is like right there, which is barely moving your left hand. It's a lot of it's in your right hand. The pick and fingers technique, which I use a lot. I use my pick and then these two fingers. I don't want to... Yeah, the middle finger and the one beyond that. So G chords, they come over to the third column. Again, without the third, I have two different ways of doing that chord. It's the same notes, but the fingerings are different, and there's a real good reason I put them both on there. The first one on the top row is like this. Thick, robust, sounds badass, you know, no thirds, beefy. The same chord on the bottom fingering is where you take the thumb, and then the first finger bars, the thumb mutes the fifth string, and then you bar the second and first string with your first finger. That's really a hillbilly G chord. The claw. However, I use it a lot in blues or situations, okay? It's kind of a starting point to do things like that. be a really, great thing for doing blues. Now this one here, equally as good as blues, also like for more bluegrass influenced stuff, which I was really influenced by, but it doesn't sound like bluegrass when I play it. Two different fingerings on the exact same chord let you kind of open up to different things. The last chord I'm going to show you on here, because we're short on, this goes really fast, we did last time, is the F add 9. And when I play an F chord, F is one of the few keys where there are not a lot of open strings you can use. Like for instance in G and A you can use any open string. Okay, so in G, for instance, play all those, combine the open strings. Every open string is in the key of A mixolydian, which is the mode I usually use. So you can do all those open strings down there. You can also do them up here. So I use open strings a whole lot. F is the key that does not have that going for it. It has the G and the B and the open A. But the two main chords when I play F are this form here, which is the one, the E I showed you on the first row, bottom page. But the one I really use a lot is the F add 9 there, the top fourth chord in the top row. Where the thumb plays the F and then mutes the A string. Third finger plays the F, open G, first finger plays the C, and then the fourth finger plays the G here. And the thumb, I'll talk more about that. I use my thumb for so much stuff, and if you're not doing that, somebody in the last class told me that their teacher told them they should never use their thumb. I don't know. There's certain things I wouldn't use my thumb for, but the guitar playing is not one of them. So that F chord right there is what, I wrote a song called What Passes for Love, and that's the second chord in that. People get that chord wrong. I see a lot of people playing that song and never do that chord right. And so this thumb business is not that hard. You just have to do it. It's like a lot of things. Guitar playing is simple, really, but it's not easy. What that means is you got to put in the time, and it doesn't take that much time to learn to use your thumb. Speaking of, how many people know where all the notes are on the fingerboard? Wow. I got two babies over here. All right. Not to lecture or sound like the guy that says you can't use your thumb or anything like that, but it doesn't matter what kind of guitar you have or what amp you're playing through. If you don't know where the notes on the fingerboard, you can't go sit in with somebody. You can't jam with people. What if you get the guy that's like into Stevie Ray Vaughan, he has his guitar tuned down to half step to E flat, and he calls it, it's a blues in E. Well, he means A flat, E flat. Well, if you're used to playing an E all the time, you're out of luck. So you need to know where E flat is. I mean, to understand these chords and the guitar playing in general, you've got to know where the notes are. So it's like a typist, if you're a secretary, you don't know where the keys are. It's the same thing. So you can make a sheet of the finger fretboard and put the notes on it, copy it, laminate, put one in that little basket in your bathroom, put one next to your bed, you know, and it won't take you long at all to get the feel for where the notes are, but you gotta have that, honestly, you really do. And you just can't progress if you don't know where the notes are on the fingerboard. The other chords, I'm not really going to go over because we don't have enough time, but I think you can sort of, if you take them and check them out, you'll see the same kind of deal. It's not with chords without thirds, and most of them are movable forms that you can move up and down the fingerboard. For instance, the A that's on there, you know, by leaving out this A, you can move it up here and you've got a C. That C, it's the same chord, just like starting on a different string. All right, any questions so far? Yeah.
Your hybrid picking. What is an exercise that you use to develop that? You can't do it with a pick.
Hybrid picking, what is an exercise to do to develop that? That's a tough one because I just kind of worked my way into it. For me, the idea of using picking fingers really started out with listening to blues players like Albert Collins, Albert King, where they would pop the string with their middle finger. I watched them do it, and get that sound with the pick on a downstroke. You have to pop the string to get that thing. And then, you know, I listen to a lot of pedal steel players, a lot of country players, and you know, I just heard all these things that were like, and so I tried to make that sound, you know, and I didn't have anybody to teach me how to do it. But what I'm doing when I'm using the pick and the two fingers is I'm playing like a, you know, when you play a piano and you play the whole chord, they're all hitting at the same time, as opposed to, you know, a guitar would be like taking your hand across the piano. This is like, so I don't know what the exercise is. I do a lot of pedal tone things where I'll just, I don't know. You have to, you just, there are probably books that tell you how to do all that. I don't know. But, what's that?
The one you do.
My book explains it?
Yeah.
Good, okay. Well, I haven't read my book lately.
Yeah, your Hot Licks video.
Okay. See, I know more, maybe I used to know more what I don't know. You know, the longer I play, the more intuitive it becomes. I think about it less. And for me, it's more like, I hear the sound in my head. I want to make this sound come out. And I just don't think about it that much. You know, there were like early Roy Buchanan things. You know, it's a simple thing.
That's a combination of a half bend and a full bend of the two notes, isn't it?
All I'm doing is hold that and then bending this note below it. So again, this whole pedal steel thing I developed with Joe Ely he had a pedal steel player before named Lloyd Maines, who played with this really overdriven tone, and it was this kick-ass thing that separated Joe from all the Nashville stuff. And when I got with him, well, initially when I was in high school, I got this Dave Edmunds record called Repeat When Necessary, and Albert Lee played a solo on the song called Sweet Little Lisa. And it just killed me, man. I was like, God, I want to play like that. I want to make that sound. And I spent a year learning the solo. And I was obsessed with that solo. And I was like, how is he doing that? And then I find out like 3 years later, he was using, there's a thing called a B-string bender. And I didn't know, but the beauty of it is there was no YouTube or, I couldn't look it up and find out what he was using. Now you can go see him play it, at that session. So I kind of got this hybrid pedal steel thing going on electric guitar as a result of that solo and then listening to pedal steel players. And that comes down to, again, knowing where the notes are. You got to know where the notes are to pull off these licks, especially when you're going up and down the fingerboard. So, for instance, in the key of A, I can see the shapes. Talking about A mixolydian. Now let's assume I'm going to do the pedal steel licks on the first and second string, okay? That's just A mixolydian, and I know where I can see those notes. And then you get a feel for how do you want to rhythmically make it happen. And it just comes with practice, where you start with I think I talk about that in my book. Yeah, okay. The book is cheap, by the way. It's got a CD in it and everything.
The CD is great because you can work through the exercises and then
Can you hear it?
if you're not really slick on reading rhythms and stuff, you can kind of hear it. But then
Right.
you hear your attitude in there too, and it's really a nice practice.
Do you do promo, like press releases or anything? Any questions about that pedal steel idea? Yeah.
Not on the pedal steel. But back to the book again, I guess even though you're going to get that.
Yeah.
One of the very first things you did in the book was you said, actually, you just really need to know one note, and you do a complete solo with that.
Yeah, he said, what he's saying is that in my book I talk about you really only need one note and you can play a solo with it. And what he's talking about is, again, if you know where the notes on the fingerboard are, when somebody calls a tune in E flat, the worst thing that can happen is you just play E flat and play it, variations of it. It's a blues in E flat. That would be F. Here's E flat. I can play a solo. I mean, if I had to, of course I want to go. But I mean, literally, you could play a solo with one note, but you have to know where the note is, and that would be the root of the chord. Okay? When it goes to the 4 chord in E flat, that's A flat. And then you can bend that one note. It's that simple. If you know where the notes are, and that's actually a good exercise because it gets you to really be expressive. Albert King, as expressive a guitar player as you've ever heard. Man, he would play like, 3-4 notes on the whole solo, but man, it would just rip my heart out, that he ended every solo with, you know. So, I mean, I really stress the whole idea of starting without trying to become, you know, Wes Montgomery, but trying, you know, starting with guys like Albert King, and then learning, you know, emphasizing the feel, and making the most out of as few notes as possible, and really going for that deep expression. And again, you know, I've said this a lot, but you know, find your voice, copy the guys you love, you know, and don't be afraid of, don't listen to what anybody else says about whether something's good or bad. If it feels good to you, it is good, period. Don't listen. Because, you know, this world's made up of people that want to tell you what's wrong with everything. You know, and that's like, see, I was getting ready to cuss, but I'm not going to. Screw that. You know, I mean, like, when I was growing up, I didn't know, you know, there was no YouTube, there were no internet, bulletin boards, everybody's an expert telling you who's good, who's bad, what guitar's good, you know, everybody's an expert. It was up to me to kind of search out the things that I related to on an emotional level. And I grew up in Kentucky where there was no big scene. There was a lot of pockets of things. There was bluegrass, there was blues, there was jazz. We had Jimmy Rainey, the first guitar player that ever played with Charlie Parker. We got Southern rock, you know, I went down and heard Leonard Skinner, Marshall Tucker, the Allman Brothers, you know, ZZ Top, all the time, you know. And I'd get there, it was festival seating, they call it, and first come, first serve, 5,000 seat place, and I'd be on the front row every time. Santana, Hendrix, Kenny Burrell, B.B. King, all these things I listened to, you know, to me they just felt good. You know, Doc Watson, Norman Blake, all this stuff felt good. I heard Wes Montgomery for the first time and I felt like I was floating on a cloud. You know, Pat Metheny. I've watched him go from this guy that had this totally unique approach to he keeps evolving, like, in a way that's almost unbelievable to me. But, you know, rather than getting discouraged by it, it's inspiring to see this guy that keeps growing. Jeff Beck. I mean, he's never made the same record twice, and he's playing better now than he ever played. And so all these things, you know, I mean, I hung around people like, yeah, you know, Doc Watson, you know, or Albert King, I could do that. You know what? You can't do that. You think you can do that, but you can't. There's only one Albert King. You know, Stevie Ray Vaughan could do Albert King, and he did it a lot. You know, a lot of Stevie is Albert King, and so if you listen to what everybody's trying to discourage you about and what's cool and what's not cool, you're not going to find your own thing. So we don't live in a vacuum anymore. There is the internet, you know, and you got to come to grips with that. But go with what feels good to you. Go with what feels good to you, and don't be afraid to let anybody tell you. Don't let anybody tell you that what feels good to you is not good. I mean, that's what I did. You know, I didn't have a lot of people tell me I was wrong, but I just did what I did, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, I kind of got myself into these situations where I had the opportunity to grow and develop, and then now I have people tell me I can hear you, you know, in 5 seconds I know what you're playing. So that is the ultimate compliment for me, is that people tell me I know it when you're playing. And I didn't get there, I didn't like consciously work my way into that situation, but I just listened to things I love and tried to figure them out. I play a lot of acoustic guitar, I listen to a lot of bluegrass. I'm not a great bluegrass player, but I take some of that stuff and incorporate it into electric guitar on a, you know, on a much different, in a much different, untraditional, non-bluegrass way, you know? I mean, that's all, you know, Norman Blake stuff, but it's the way I play it, you know, and it's really cool. All right, who wants to play rhythm guitar for me? on something. You want to do it? All right. Come on up, man. What's your name? Phil. This is Phil. Give him a hand.
Hey, Phil.
All right, I want to talk about an approach to solo.
Right there.
You don't have a pick in your pocket. What kind of guitar player are you without a pick in your pocket?
Thanks. There you go.
I'm giving my pick.
Only because I have enough.
All right, we're not going to get fancy, okay? I'm just going to use you to help me explain a couple of things. Albert King, going back to Albert King, okay? My favorite Albert King song ever is called Crosscut Saw. Y'all know that song? You ever heard it? Okay, he plays it in A flat because he tunes down half step, but we're going to play it in A. And the rhythm and the chords, the main thing is like this. So this is G over A with an A in the bass.
Yeah, except. Get to the. I want to get you to A. Good. All right.
That's where we're going to go. Now, what I got to from that was, that's cool. He's playing a G chord over, we're in A, but he's playing a G chord. So I started thinking, well, you know, maybe I could incorporate, instead of just playing blues scales and scales, maybe I could play that G triad over that A thing and incorporate that into my solo. So I started doing things like, in the key of A, another G. And then I realized you could play the 4 chord, which is a D over this. And just like this lick down here, using the D chord, you can do it up here, the same lick, using the 4 chord. So all of a sudden I've got, wow, man, I can get out of the scale thing and I can play these chords against it. So then I started working my way down, like in the key of A, incorporating A, G, and D. I came up with this sort of map on the fingerboard. Okay, so that's just A, G, D, A, G, D, A, G, D, A. Okay? I only had one wrong note now. I did it again. So, okay, let's just do that rhythm again. So I'm gonna show you some things where I'm playing the G and the D. I'm gonna expand off them, but I'm gonna mainly the G triads and the D triads. G. G again. Now here's D. Let's use some D, G, D, and G. So you see what coming from a, oh yeah, how about the rhythm guitar player?
All right.
To me, that really opened up a lot of doors soloing wise, you know, and to get off the basic scale things that we all do. And, you know, I mean, you know, my whole, like on a song like Crosscut Saw, my main approach would be like A mixolydian, it's a fancy word for saying A7 scale, and of the blues scale. So between the two, you got almost every note, you know, and then passing chromatic tones. But it really takes it to more, and that, to me, that's from like listening to more jazz players, to mix that in with, you know, traditional Albert King, Albert Collins, B.B. King approaches to playing blues, mix that in. You hear Robin Ford do that kind of stuff a lot. Larry Carlton talks about it a lot. But I just sort of just fell into it because this Albert King song, I don't know, just started happening one day. Questions? Yeah.
Everything you're talking about is basically in a standard tuning, and so much what we hear now, you know, like the guitar player in magazines, people are talking these, you know, these really funky, you know, kind of ride tutor almost type tunings that people are using. Are you living in any of that territory?
Open tunings, that kind of thing?
Open, or even some of the metal guys are doing the
I do. I mean, here's the deal. I keep a baritone guitar, I have a guitar tuned to C sharp, I have a standard guitar, and I use capos on tons of stuff. So I didn't do this last time, but I want to show you. All I got to do is find my capo. Don't go anywhere. People think this is a cheating thing, okay? They think this is like you're cheating if you use one of these. I'm going to show you the beauty of this, okay? And like, if you want, each key has its own personality, you know. G has the certain open strings, A has certain open strings, F has a certain thing. 2 minutes, okay, I got 2 minutes to do this. All right, so I use capos a lot to either complement another guitar part or just to get a different feel. So let me show you real quick. Can you play? Keep going, keep going. Put it on the 4th fret. That's a good fret. It's on the 5th fret. So many songs that I've been a part of, recording-wise, you know, when I worked with John Mellencamp, you know. He was born in a small town, you know. I mean, that sound was from playing with a capo. Can't always get what you want. I mean, I wrote a song called "Good Day for the Blues." With a capo. That sound is only there with a capo. So, baritone guitars tuned differently, capos, man, they open up all kinds of doors, especially when you're working with another guy. So, thank y'all so much for coming. Give Phil a big hand here. Have fun this weekend.
Yeah, I've got